to these last couple here, we have to isolate the absolute value first before we do our two equations. So before you set up the two equations, we have to first move this 10 over. And then we're going to divide by 3. So this is the equation that we're going to solve. So before we set up our two equations, we're going to first get that alone. Now we're ready to set up the two inequalities. So now we're going to say y plus 4 could equal, or could be less than 3, and y plus 4 could be greater than negative 3. So don't forget to flip it on that second one. Okay, settle down. So we get one answer of y is less than negative 1. And y is also greater than negative 7. Now when we go to put this on our number line, be careful. The smaller one should go on the left side. So negative 7 is going to go on the left. So on your number line still has to make sense. I'm going to do open circles. Now it's less than negative 1 but greater than 7. So what do we have in this case?
It's going to be going together.
Less than negative 1, greater than 7, negative 7, so this is an and.
I just remember because the open ones, right? So once they go together.
Well, that's not necessarily.
Well, I can't always.
That's a pattern you can't assume.
Okay.
All right, our next one to get the y, or to get the absolute value alone, we have to move that 2 over first. I'm going to warn you guys on this one, there's a lot of flipping of the inequalities. So we're going to end up flipping the inequalities 3 different times in this problem. Oops, I forgot to flip it there. So we flip the inequality there. Guys, stop talking, please. And now we're ready to solve. So we're going to move this 5 over. And we have to divide by this negative 1. Because there's a negative y, we can't have that. When we divide by a negative, we're going to flip the inequality again. So we flip the inequality when we divide by a negative. So we had, oh, it needs to be an equal to too as well. That's why. So we left it the way it was, but then when we divided by a negative, we had to flip the inequality. A lot of steps here. Do the same thing over here. This is negative 21 here. I'm going to divide by negative 1. And again, we're going to flip the inequality because we divided by a negative. So negative 11, 21, this one's a closed circle. But this time, they're going to go together. They're going to go together because it's going smaller than 21, bigger than negative 11. So again, an and inequality. Okay. When you're ready, flip the page over. We're going to go to our graphing on the back side. So this is what we did our very last class. we got into the shading of the graph. So if you leave this quiz without doing any shading, you've done something wrong. So this is where we color half of the graph to show where the solutions are.
Okay.
So as we do this, we need our equations first to be in slope-intercept form. So we need them in y equals mx plus b. And then we learned that there could be dotted lines, or there could be a solid line, depending on the type of inequality it is.
I know what the first one is.
And then we do a test point, and we shade the side that works. And so we're going to do these two examples. The bottom two graphs on the bottom of the page are for when we have homework. So those are the graph, that's your graph paper for homework. Then it's just on there already for you. Okay? So this first equation, probably don't need my graph paper down that low. So this first equation, this is a special type of equation. It only has a y. Do you remember what kind of line that's going to be? This one, it's the horizontal one. It's the flat one because if you think about it, there is no slope. So slope is 0, so this is just a flat line. Yes?
That means it's gonna be a flat line on -7, right?
Yep, so a flat line at -7, but also it's going to be dotted because it doesn't have that equal to line. So at -7, I'm going to put a flat dotted line. If it was x is greater than, then it would be
A straight line or whatever.
Vertical line. Now, what we have to do now is we have to test a point and see what side of the graph I'm going to shade. So I'm going to test 0, 0. If I can test 0, 0, I like to test that one. As long as it's not on the line, we can do that. So we're going to test 0, 0. I'm going to check and see if that works. So x and y, so y is 0. Is that greater than -7? Yes. It is. So that means I'm going to shade the side of the line that has 0, 0 on it. So that means I'm going to color this whole top side of the graph.
That seems easy.
That's coloring. Okay? So anything in the yellow would work. So if you picked any of the points in the yellow, those would all be solutions. That's where it's showing where it works. Okay? And going beyond. So like it would keep going if we colored our whole page. The last one here that we need to do is we need to get that y alone. So to get our y alone, it's being multiplied by 2. So we're going to divide by 2. If I divide that by 2, I have to divide all of these by 2. Now, I prefer the slope as a fraction rather than changing that to a decimal. I don't want to call that 1.5. It's confusing to me that way, so I think it makes more sense this way. Now this one's going to begin at -4, and my slope is going to be 3 over 2.
So over 3 over 2.
Up 3 over 2. So we're going to begin at -4, down here on the y-axis, and I'm going to go up 3 and over 2. Up 3 and over 2. Down 3, back 2. Now this time it's a solid line, so I can connect the dots. So I can make that a solid line here. And again, I'm going to test 0, 0 because it's not on my line. The only time I can't test 0, 0 is when it's right on my line. So if I test 0, 0, I can test in this equation or the old one. It doesn't really matter. This one's in front of me, so I'm going to do this one. So when I go to test this, 3 halves times 0 is 3 halves, or 0, sorry. Is negative 4 bigger than 0? No.
No.
So that means this point doesn't work, so I'm going to shade the other side of the line. So that's where all my solutions would be.
Okay.
Okay? Questions? So our homework is listed there for you guys. Again, there's 2 graphs you have to do. They're both, the graph paper is right there for you. So you guys can just use that for your graph paper. You probably want loose leaf for the rest of the type of problems we have. Okay?